We are here together on this day in a very important session. We are going to be talking about rewriting the energy formula of cities. We have international valuable guests here with us, and on this note, I would like to thank Marmara Union of Municipalities for this opportunity, as well as my greetings to all the speakers and our valuable guests. So this is actually a first in our country because finally in October, the Turkish Grand National Assembly is going to approve, upon 5 years, the Paris Climate Agreement. Very recently, the Green Agreement Action Plan from our ministry was published. So they are very important details, and these are two great news that I wanted to note at the very beginning of this panel. So first of all, from the International Energy Agency, scientific Brian, the president of the scientific board, is going to present, and then we're going to continue with our panel. Thank you.
Participate in today's event. It's a great pleasure to be talking to you from here at the IEA headquarters in Paris, and particularly to be talking about this very important topic. And so thank you for the invitation to join you and to talk about net zero from our future energy systems, and particularly the vital role of cities in this project. I must start by pointing out that we are far from being on track towards our global targets for decarbonising our energy system. Despite a lot of recent good news in terms of firmer commitments from governments around the world to accelerate progress towards net zero in energy systems, in fact, according to IEA tracking, we are actually moving in the opposite direction. And in 2021, we will see our use of energy and related CO2 emissions from the global energy system actually rise. And this is not the path we should be on to get towards a net zero future. And this is why urgent policy action at all levels is so vital. And in that context, just a few months ago, the IEA published a roadmap towards net zero energy systems. We can achieve our net zero targets, and governments will make choices according to their preferences and their strengths and the different options available to them. But looking at one particular pathway helps us understand the many policy, technology, and social questions that must be discussed now if we are to set ourselves on the right path. And when we look at the milestones on the path to net zero between now and 2050, we see that action is necessary and urgently necessary in every sector, whether it's moving away in transport from internal combustion engine vehicles, whether it's increasing the penetration of super efficient buildings and appliances, or whether it's decarbonising through efficiency and supply and many other measures, industry, transport, buildings, and of course the electricity system. There are many milestones between now and 2050, but the most important point is that action needs to begin straight away. We can no longer wait for 1 or 2 decades to start taking the actions that are required. And in particular, the decade between now and 2030 is really crucial in terms of some of the scaling up we need to see in key areas. Just to give you some example, despite the fast progress in recent years in wind and solar penetration around the year, we actually need to quadruple our rate of build between now and the end of the decade. Similarly, in many regions, we've seen much faster growth of sales of electric vehicles in recent years, but we need to go up by a factor of almost 20 this decade. And more than anything, we need to become much more efficient in the way we use energy. In terms of the energy intensity of GDP, how much energy we use for every unit of economic activity, we need to improve that by 4% a year. And I can tell you that that's more than triple the current rate of progress. We're making some progress on energy efficiency, but we need to be going 3 times as fast if we are to meet our targets. Central to this, of course, is investment. We've seen a growth in clean energy investment in recent years, but it really needs to scale up in the coming years. Not least, of course, in energy end use, whether it's electric vehicles, more efficient infrastructure, more efficient buildings or industry. End use has a key role to play, and investment must grow very quickly in all of these domains. The good news, of course, is this drives economic activity, it drives technology upgrades, it employs many people, and it stimulates economies. So driving much greater levels of investment in clean energy technologies around the world will create jobs, will help economic growth, will stimulate economic recovery, as well as bringing many benefits such as lower levels of air pollution, greater levels of energy access and affordability, and of course putting the globe on a path towards net zero emissions as soon as possible. In these transitions, of course, the demand side is crucial, as I have mentioned, and this is true in every part of the world, where over the coming 3 decades we're going to see huge shifts in the supply of energy, moving away from coal, oil and gas in particular, and of course huge shifts on the demand side in terms of becoming more efficient, more electrified, and a much more crucial role for demand response in electricity systems and for battery storage. We're going to see a new type of electricity system that's much more dynamic and interactive, driven by digital technologies, where we're matching our demand for electricity with supply from renewable sources such as solar and wind, which are intermittent, but when they are available, they are cheap and clean. And a more dynamic digital energy system can allow us to make maximum use of those resources while keeping overall costs and scale down, making it a better, cheaper, cleaner and more resilient system for all. And of course, cities at the center of this. We're seeing huge growth in cities, of course, in terms of population, economic activity in every part of the world, but particularly in emerging and developing markets where growth is very strongly focused on urban domains, and we're seeing a lot of buildings being built, a lot of infrastructure being built. And of course, policy decisions now will decide whether these are locked in as high efficient, low carbon assets or low efficiency, high carbon assets. So decisions really matter now in terms of the future of the role of cities in our clean energy transition. That is why we at the IEA are putting so much focus on cities, and in particular why this year we've worked very closely with the G20 family of countries, particularly supported by this year's president, the government of Italy, who I want to thank for all of their support for our work. And recently, with the G20 energy ministers, we published an important analysis called Empowering Cities for a Net Zero Future. You can find this report, and you can find all of the analysis I'm referring to available for free on our website. And in particular, our work on cities with the G20 focuses on the central role of cities. How can cities support net zero pathways, and particularly through digitalization? There's a real interaction here between the role of cities as actors, are driving towards clean energy, and the enabling power of digital technologies to unlock new flexibilities in grids, new levels of efficiency, and new opportunities to make grids of the future and cities of the future cleaner and more resilient. There's a lot of policy focus here, but it's particular focus on how to deploy new technologies in more efficient ways that will really unlock the power of digital technologies and energy efficiency combined with renewable energy and other clean technologies to really prepare cities for being at the heart of clean energy futures. But of course, this affects people's lives in very many ways. It's really important to emphasize that while we talk about policy and technology a lot, really clean energy transitions are about people and they're for people. And therefore, people must be at the center of these clean energy transitions. That's why earlier this year, our executive director convened the Global Commission on People-Centered Clean Energy Transitions, which brings together energy and climate ministers and other thought leaders such as representatives of labour, of youth, of energy access and of civil society from every part of the world, from large countries and small countries, from energy producers, from energy importers, bringing together the power of their wisdom and experience to understand how energy transition policies can be more inclusive and people-centered. We're grateful for the leadership of the Prime Minister of Denmark and also for the chairing of the Commission by the Energy Minister of Denmark and co-chairing by the Energy and Climate Minister of Senegal. And this group of people have been working together with our support for the last 6 months to develop actionable recommendations that can really help governments understand how they can make clean energy transitions more people-centered and therefore, of course, ultimately more successful and more effective. Some of the themes of this work, of course, starts with jobs. How do we make sure that clean energy transitions create decent jobs, but also how do they support communities and individuals that will be impacted by inevitable job losses in certain sectors, such as certain fossil fuels and related industries. We also focus on how clean energy transitions can enhance social and economic development, particularly in the poorer parts of the world, where energy can transform people's lives, and building new infrastructure, bringing access to energy can really improve people's lives, and how this can be done in a sustainable and inclusive way. We are also learning from the wisdom of our Commission members on questions like social inclusion, gender equity, fairness of policies, and also how to involve people so that policies are as legitimate and fair and well accepted as is possible. The Global Commission will make its recommendations in just a few weeks' time as an input into the discussions at COP26 in Glasgow. So I look forward to hearing your feedback when you've had a chance to look at these recommendations when they're published. And we very much welcome input as we continue this conversation with governments around the world as to how to drive clean energy transitions that are moving as fast as they need to be, but in ways that are people-centered, inclusive, and of course, recognizing the central role of cities that they can play to really be centers of innovation, centers of new thought, and centers of inspiring activity for the future of clean energy transitions. So thank you very much for the invitation to join you today. I hope my remarks were of use, and I look forward to staying in contact with you all in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're very thankful. The chairman of the International Energy Agency is Mr. Fatih Birol, and he was elected as one of the 100 most influential people in the world, and he has also given us all the support in energy transformation of Turkey and about energy efficiency, and he is supporting us in all of this. Now, with your permission, I'll give the word to Ms. Ayşegül, who has worked in the energy industry for many years, and she's done important work throughout many years. And let her introduce herself and then give us her presentation so that we can have the examples about one of the cities who's done most work about energy transformation, and she's one of the people who worked a lot about this. Greetings to you. And thank you so much to Marmara Union of Municipalities for bringing us together as Gaziantep Metropolitan Municipality, and as Mr. Arif said, we started this works in 2017. All of our engineers prepared study plans in industry and everything else, and we need to look at the issues in a, I think you can see my presentation, can't you? As Metropolitan Municipality of Gaziantep, we are the first municipality to work about climate change, and we had the first action plan in 2015. In 2018, we had the latest revision, and we continued with sustainable energy revisions. And we committed 40% decrease in our energy consumption, and we applied for this to UNDP with the help of Ministry of Environment and Urban Affairs. And there are the processes of we're working on the processes to make these more applicable and to dismiss or mitigate the carbon emissions. We're preparing an environmental plan with the help of Ministry of Environment and Urban Affairs. Another project we have, and maybe some of the we used to have problems in terms of follow-up, in terms of metropolitan municipality. There are other directorates doing other things, say transport is doing things about cycling, and we were having difficulties to follow up our progress in terms of reaching our carbon emission decrease goals. And with these studies, we have automatically we were able to receive data automatically via a software which then updates the data and we tried to create a written program. And as you know, in 27th of January 22, the circular for increasing efficiency in energy resources and energy utilization was executed, and also the ISO standard 50001 certificate was made obligatory. And in 2015, Gaziantep municipality was the first one to be awarded with this ISO 50001 certificate. We're the first ever municipality, and we first studied the topic, and we first had this certificate, and we work on the sustainability. And as I have said, we started the studies with Mr. Arif, and we had a resulting project. We changed the fixtures and the cooling groups, and we had the building isolation, and we changed the fan coils, and we worked on the water savings for the building, and we wanted this to be an example for energy efficiency, and we converted our building to an environment-friendly public building. We have 400 subscriptions as of now, and we have 8 points that we are following the energy consumption at the highest consuming 8 points, and we are doing the studies for these projects. We are analyzing the data. Of course, in our municipality, in our metropolitan municipality, we have this platform to create awareness, and in the agenda that we have, we always have campaigns and promotions in our municipality building about turning off the unused lights and turning off unused computers. So when somebody enters the municipality building, everybody gets a certain awareness with constant and continuous campaigns. As you can see, we invite people to use the stairs instead of elevators. It is both an energy saving activity and then it's an exercise for you. Whenever they turn on their computers, everybody in the municipality building has a slogan or a warning about turning off the unused lights. So when you enter the building, you can actually breathe the energy efficiency ambience. And we don't only work in our field of activity. We have 5 organized industrial zones in Gaziantep. So we have the Industrial Symbiosis Project Feasibility Report, and we have formed a Resource Efficiency Center, and we have started a project about using the waste in a more efficient way. We want to actually establish a resource efficiency center, but in terms of resource efficiency, we want to have a design guide, and we want to have, if a company has waste, for example, a certain type of waste, they can be built next to each other with another factory that can use or recycle their waste. And also we have projects for zero carbon emissions. We are one of the 2 pilot cities which have zero carbon buildings as Gaziantep Metropolitan Municipality. We also started to have carbon certificate practices in Ozeli Central Biogas Plant as per the standards of Global Carbon Council based in Qatar. Our goal actually is to start an ecological village, and we have an ecological village in design, and we're working on finding finance for setting it up. And this will be a place for young people who have that awareness, that consciousness. It has an ecological design, it will have green production, ecological architecture with alternative energy and energy efficiency, with zero waste, using the solar panels and water pumps. There are going to be 46 projects to be implemented. This really is one of the projects exciting us, and this, once is realized, will be an example for other villages to be built. Quickly, I want to tell you about our energy plants. We have energy plants around 25 in about 25 places, and Ozeli Central Biogas Energy Plant is one of them, and that's the first biogas energy plant in Turkey which is founded on animal waste. So this is built by the government, and this has been operated successfully. Also, we have a 2 megawatt established power-based Bağlarbaşı solar energy plant, which meets our consumption needs. We also has another ecological building which is well known to Mr. Arif, and it was established in 2010, and it has both German certificates, and it has the LEED Platinum and Passive House certificate. So we are the only plant with both of these certificates, and we're talking about the renewable energy, with its green roof and with its lighting. All these systems are self-sustainable and they meet their own energy consumption needs. We really liked this biogas, and The Bağbaşı plant has 3 megawatt capacity, and this is the second one. It has its temporary acceptance, and in January it will start to produce. Also, we have a solar energy plant for non-disabled living, and with this solar energy plant we are also supporting the other provinces, for example with Nizip municipality. So what do we plan to do in the future? Our own metropolitan municipality has projects for 27 megawatt solar energy plant for our own energy subscriptions, along with a 30 megawatts wind power energy plant. We have 27 megawatt Deredüzü solar energy plant. In 2021, we plan to finish its construction, and we had the measurements. We have chosen the locations, and we are applying for the licenses now. All these works have been awarded many times at multiple occasions in terms of energy efficiency and other fields. Yes, we're very successful. We work hard and we put a lot of efforts. If you can wrap up, you have done so much, all great things, but we have run out of time. We want to be an example as the metropolitan municipality. We have our company, GBB Energy Limited, and we want to share all our experiences with other public institutions. From the first step to turnkey, we want to deliver them all our services at every level. We also have the green accordance, and we have lots of projects that we also give consultancy services. Thank you so much for this valuable line of work that you contribute. They're exemplary pilot projects, and let's hope the other municipalities do the same. We have one other very important municipality from Denmark, from Europe, council member, Mr. Bünyamin. And could you please shortly introduce yourselves and then give your presentation? We're excited to hear what you have done in your city as well. We will be a city decreasing our carbon emissions 50% by 2030 and 0 by 2050. In 2030, we hope to decrease it 70%, and in 2050, we want to have 0 carbon emissions. So the green restart of Aarhus includes the third climate plan. Most of remaining discharge is by companies and citizens. In 2021 action plan is not only a theoretical goal, and it's not only a political decision, but it is clearly supported with tangible steps And all of these are about 2030 goals, so that we can have zero carbon emissions by 2050. We're halfway through at the current situation, and our goal is to get rid of oil and coal. And also we're using household wastes for providing energy, and in the years to come we want to switch to geothermal energy. And Maersk Holding is one of the biggest holdings globally, and they are an oil company working in the oceans for oil drilling, and they work on geothermal energy. They're also working on a transition and transformation. So we work with them to make this transformation. Decreasing 50% of the carbon emissions by 2050 is our goal. Also, it's not possible to do this by all ourselves, is the public, the government, and the municipalities. So we hope to include other parties in this. And this means as Denmark, we produce wind turbines, but we have limited land, and most part of our energy is expected to be of solar plants. To reach these goals, our major goal is to mitigate the damages of transport and mobility. We want to have all of our public transport vehicles to be operated by electricity, and we want all the public the tram lines are expensive and they are not flexible, so we want to use BRT systems in our new investments for public transport. Lastly, because of the development of our city and because of migration flows, for construction areas of 1,000 square meters or bigger projects, we will need to have a life space assessment. And with our industry and with our companies, we work together, and our experience shows us that no matter how hard the companies compete in certain fields, they share their know-how and data in the fields that they can cooperate with. And lastly, the municipalities' goals are not to be realized only by political will or by municipalities all by themselves. We need to have everyone to get involved. It's not only by political goals or intentions. We need our people. We need the public to get involved in this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Bünyamin. I have a problem with my camera now. That's why I'm not visible. This is actually a very important goal. I don't know if there are any other countries. You said it was the second largest city of Denmark. In 2030, you have a goal of zero carbon emissions by 2030, which is an amazing goal actually. And it looks like you have already achieved most of the most part of this amount. And now I'd like to give the mic to another very important city, one of the first exemplary cities for everyone around the world, and somewhere that everybody visits for having the experience. From Freiburg now, we have our participant. I would like to ask them to please introduce themselves first and share their experiences with us. Franziska, the mic is yours now.
Thank you very much. I would like to share the screen like this. Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me and having the opportunity here to give you a short overview about the city of Freiburg, where I come from. Can you see I hope you can see the slides. Wait a sec. Okay. Okay, my name is Franziska Breyer. I'm in charge of the staff unit Climate Neutrality and Environmental Protection Office of the city of Freiburg. And I will try to give you a glance of our city in a rush. So, wait a moment, the overview doesn't work. I cannot click through okay, like this. Some facts and figures about Freiburg. We have a population of 230,000 inhabitants. Also, like in Aarhus, the university is a very important factor for the research infrastructure. We have 30,000 students, but also for the economical impact on the city of the university is quite high. Economically, Freiburg has never been a rich city, rather a poor city, but we have the economical impact is service sector, tourism, life science industry. And we have an area of 155 square kilometers, 40% forest, 50% nature or landscape reserve. And to our city boundaries belongs also a high mountain with 1,200 meters altitude, which is important for the potential of wind power. And if you talk about energy policy in Freiburg, you have to go a little bit back to the past. We had a kind of a big bang incident in the 70s when there was a huge movement in the city and the bordering counties against nuclear power. And this movement was successful, so they prevented this nuclear power plant from being built. And this was a kind of a starting point for the discussion that energy issues are crucial for sustainability, for our future, for a sustainable future. So already in the 70s and the 80s, people started thinking, what if we don't approve of nuclear power, what is the future? What is a sustainable energy supply? And this resulted in a huge variety of citizen groups, but also research institutions, which are in Freiburg and contribute to the public debate about energy politics. And today, I think like everywhere, we have this movement of young people especially, which is really still amazing for me, being so long in the business already, that the Fridays for Future movement, young people, but not only young people, who are very much committed to climate action and really putting pressure on the politics, also on the local level, to reinforce their efforts to go faster towards net zero emissions. And this is it started in 2019, but a few weeks ago we had a big demonstration also here in Freiburg. And so this is a very important movement and has also an impact on politics. And as you can see, like everywhere also in Freiburg, climate change is real. You can see the rise of the average annual temperatures in Freiburg during the last 100 years. And you can see that it's getting really hotter and hotter. Naturally, it varies from one year to the other, but the tendency is very clear to us. So we are very much also hit by climate change in the southern part, being in the southern part of Germany. And as an example, you can see the Dreisam River, which is a river that really crosses the city. And normally, in normal time, also in the past time, it was always enough water there. And we have an example in the very dry summer of 2018. The river actually fell dry. There was no water left in it, which was frightening for us to see. And as we always like to stress, climate action is not an environmental issue. Some people say, yeah, we get the economy running, and then if we have some spare time and some spare money, we deal with environmental issues like climate change. Climate action is not an environmental issue. We have the environment, but society is highly dependent on the environment, and the economy is highly dependent, which means if we don't succeed in limiting climate change, we will never prevent it from happening because it's happening already, but we have to limit it as far as we can. And it's worthwhile fighting for every degree or every part of a degree Celsius in temperature rise. So which means we have strong social and economic impacts if we don't really reinforce our efforts for climate action. And we have, I think this is not very original, all over the place, 6 strategic areas of action. For a city, very important: building, town planning, administration. Very important also sustainable heat supply, the decarbonization of the heat sector, renewable energies, CO2-free mobility. And we also try to commit ourselves to social marketing, climate-friendly lifestyle in the communication with the citizens of our city. And business, trade, industry, here the impact of the city is not so big. We very much rely on the frame conditions made from the state and federal level, but we try to do as much as we can. And the local roadmap for climate protection in Freiburg is that we started with the carbon accounting in 1992. And so far, the last balance was referring to the year 2018. I think we have got a little bit further already. We resulted in a reduction of 37% per capita, less greenhouse gases. But this is something, it's a third part of it, but it's still far from reaching our goals. And this number is not very accurate. I think our municipal council is preparing a decision that we want to become carbon neutral much earlier than 2050. And as it was said before, houses matter. Houses matter especially on the local level because we have a huge impact to our regulations we can set in the building and construction sector to how much energy houses consume. All the houses in Germany with our climatic frame conditions, naturally, they are responsible for 40% of the energy consumption. And as you can see here in the private households, most of it, 75% is for the heating sector. So getting down with the heat demand and supplying the rest with renewables is crucial for climate action on this sector. So we have this benchmark, kilowatt hours per square meter and year consumption, and we can see this is was the average number for houses in Germany in 1992 and now in 2030. And Freiburg always had the ambition to be ahead of the legislation, and we established low energy housing standards already in the beginning of the 90s. And now we have the Freiburg energy efficiency standard, which is 15 to 20 kilowatt hours per square meter and year consumption. And naturally, the future would be houses that are like little power plants that produce much more energy than they use. And when you go around Freiburg, you see all these houses, a lot of them, new houses. You can see, if you look at the windows, that they're insulated well. We have this plus energy houses that are already existing small power plants, which produce more energy than they consume. And if you see building sites, you see all the insulation material at the scaffolds, which ensures that the energy consumption of these houses is low, especially low. And the building where I'm right now is the new town hall, which is also a plus energy building, which has a lot of solar panels on the roof and on the front with some amount of 700 kilowatt peak production and a heating and cooling system with groundwater. So this huge building is cooled and heated without burning anything. It's just the heat pump technology which is being used here. And new houses, it's easy to build new houses which are energy efficient, but what are we doing with all the building stock? So the city already for 15 years had a subsidy program for the building stock, and we give grants for installation of buildings, naturally energy consulting for the owners, building management, a bonus for scrapping old heating systems, and solar panels. And more than 12% of the buildings have already participated in the scheme, and we triggered a lot of investment. And but also on this field of action, we would very much approve if the federal and state level would set better legislative frame conditions for us as a municipality. And this is an example of an old house that has been insulated in this program scheme. Renewable energy is crucial, especially for the coupling of sectors. We have a lot of solar energy production of 34 million kilowatt hours per year, wind energy with 5 windmills on the territory of our city. It's a not solved question how we balance wind power and nature conservation, because also having a very high forestry standard here, we have lots of endangered species in the forest also, so we always have to take care that we have a balance of these issues. Water, energy, and biomass also contribute. Biomass, especially from organic waste, which is fed into a grid. We think that water energy is on the limit already, because due to climate change, there will be not much more water potential in the future, we think. And as I said before, it's all about renewables. If we go to the future, like having heat and electricity without burning any, heat and mobility without burning anything, we need a lot of renewable energy, and we cannot take the second step before the first. So the potential of renewable energy must be fully used in the cities also. And we plan a new climate neutral city district, which is huge, 15,000 inhabitants, with a very tricky energy concept. We have low temperature district heating system all over the place, solar energy plants on every building. We will have the heat source of wastewater heat of a canal going close by, and underground water electrolysis for green hydrogen, a central power station with heat pumps for underground water, wastewater heat, waste heat of electrolysis, and central electrolyzer for green power overage, including use of waste heat. And we think that this is a very ambitious goal, because naturally for 15,000 people, the planning process is very tricky, but we are well on our way for that. And a few words for mobility. Naturally, we put a stress on bicycling, on cycling roads, cycling tracks, making it comfortable and safe for the people to go with a bike. We put stress on public transport, and also build up the infrastructure for car sharing, so that you can, if you now and then need a car, you can make use of this infrastructure. And this results in the modal split, which improved since the last 40 years a lot. So which means that in the 80s, we still had some almost 40% of the traffic movements was by car. And now we have come down to 21%. And it's also very interesting that here in the meantime, and at the end of the 90s, there was the number of people going by foot was decreasing, but we think the life quality in a city depends highly also on the possibility to reach, to go by foot. The pedestrians must not be forgotten if you just put a stress on bicycle and public transport. So we try to build up infrastructure for a city of short ways, because also due to the demographic development, many elderly old people, they depend on going by foot, and so the infrastructure for pedestrians is also important. And we try to really offer something also for the citizens, so that they can participate in this efforts. And for example, we give energy counseling cost-free for all the households here. And in the end, I want to say a sustainable city is never a result of the administration or the municipal council's decision. The sustainable city is co-produced by the people, by the citizens. And so we try to cooperate as much as we can. We build up participation schemes. The last climate action plan was worked out together with the population. We give information on sustainable lifestyles, like which kind of food should we consume, and encourage people to really get involved also in the neighborhood and propose projects which are then funded by the city. And naturally, the young generation is introduced to learning sustainability, because they have to build up the city in the future. So I'm through, and thank you for your attention.
We are thankful to you for your valuable work, which are quite exemplary for our country and for the world. And now, the last speaker, he just joined us, Mihail Karanto, who is a very important senior energy analyst and working for our country and for major cities. They're preparing very precious reports and roadmaps, especially about energy transformation. They're one of the most important milestones. And if you could please first introduce yourselves and then give us your presentation. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Arif. Excuse me for being late, but I had the opportunity to follow some of the presentations. They were very nice and inspiring indeed. I got informed. I won't take too much of your time as the last speaker. I have prepared a presentation which I'll share with you. Let me introduce myself shortly as well. Since 2018, I work for the Shura Energy Transformation Transition organization, and I have worked about energy. I have worked on energy field for many years, especially in the financing of those projects in one of the development banks of Turkey. I was an expert, a specialist working in the financing of these projects. That's how I got into this, and I had the opportunity to follow the developments of our country in this field. Now I want to switch to my presentation. Thank you so much. I'm going to talk about the energy transformation and cities. I want to share a couple of ideas with you, and also what we have seen on a micro level. What does it look like on a global scale? That's what I want to share with you. The Shura Energy Transformation Center. I want to share a couple of bits of information with you. Since 2018, it's a platform working on Turkey's energy transformation within the priorities of Turkey, and it aims to have exchange of ideas with all the relevant stakeholders of Turkish energy sector, and creates analyses and up-to-date data, and supports the political, technological, and economic aspects of Turkey, researches these aspects, and supports the low carbon emission in Turkey. It's a transparent platform. About this information about Shura, after this information about Shura, why do we need energy transformation? The UNEP emission gap 2020 tells us that by mid-century, the increase in average temperature will be over 3 degrees. And we talk about the zero carbon goals in 120 countries. And if they reach all the goals, we can only limit the temperature increase 2.1 degrees, and the Paris Agreement calls for 1.5 degrees as the limit in terms of temperature increase, and as of last year, it was the 5th year of Paris Agreement, and there are only 2 countries who reached their net zero goals, which are Suriname and Bhutan, and then 10 more countries, EU and 10 countries, have legalized this goal, And other than that, 4 countries has a draft for making this a goal, and then 25 countries have this in their policy documents. There are 92 countries negotiating this, and then 49 countries do not even have this as a goal, and including USA and China, 25 countries only put this in their policy documents, even though they are very developed countries. Turkey was included in the 92 countries of negotiating ones in September 2021. So as you can see, we expect Turkey to move upwards from here on. The number of countries with net zero goal were 50, but once we moved to the higher level of negotiating countries, now there are 49 countries left. And we expect that by the end of the we hope that Turkey will be one of the countries with net zero goal as well. So what kind of a vision do we have? We want a transformation from an import-based, carbon-intense structure to a more innovative, lesser cost and more renewable and sustainable energy. When we look at the consuming sectors and the low carbon energy transformation in the electricity sector, there's an improvement in the electricity sector. The rate of renewable energy is around 40%, and we see that because of certain technical problems, it is very difficult to use renewable energy in other sectors other than electricity. So to increase that rate, people are working both in Turkey and abroad. So when we look at the situation in Turkey in 2019, we see that the highest rate is in industry with 2% of renewable energy. In electricity, it is 10. In the buildings, it is 10% of renewable energy. But when we say buildings, the biomass, the energy resources are included in this. In transport, there is no renewable energy being used right now. We hope that it can be transformed soon. And in agriculture and other sectors, there's 5% of energy consumption, but a negligible amount is renewable, if at all any. And there are many scenarios that Shura prepared for Turkey's electric system transformation vision. We visioned an increase in efficiency, and with the utilization of renewable energy, we hope that Turkey will have a strong period of Turkey will have a quick improvement so that we can have a less carbon emission system. What are the pieces of data we found out? In 2030, we hope that there will be 2.5 million electric vehicles and 1 million charge points, and 2 million heat pumps will be used in smart houses, and that will create 7 to 9 terawatts worth of extra electric demand. But with the energy efficiency measures, we forecast a 10% increase in efficiency compared to the base scenario, and with the decrease in industry and with savings in industry and households and savings in distribution systems, we can have 42 terawatts of decrease in total. And the share of renewable energy will increase, and the wind and solar power's rate will go above 30% as of 2030. This scenario, if we go into its details, okay, I'm trying to go to the next slide. With the Shura electric scenario, the base scenario is the energy efficiency and the final consumption. If it goes the same way with current policies, what will happen? And if we have a transformation, what will happen? We compared these two scenarios, and with energy efficiency will be at least improved, and it will be, the energy consumption will be at least 10% less. And we can see that with the transformation, the carbon emissions can be fixed or stabilized compared to the continuation of current policies. So this doesn't help us to reach our net zero goal. We need a new vision that sets new goals for 2030 and 2050. Global green agreement and green recovery concepts will be the base for this new vision. Recently, one hopeful development was that Turkey ratified Paris Agreement, and this will be brought to the parliament. And also for 2053, Turkey aims for net zero. This has been recently announced by our Ministry of Environment and Urban Affairs. Also, it's been announced by the President. So what happens we actually do this? Where does that take us to? In our scenario with the transformation, both carbon emissions, the transformation decreases carbon emissions compared to the best scenario, but the GNP increases. So this is something very beneficial for Turkey. This will create a very beneficial transformation. This is on a macro level, on a national level. How about the cities? When we check the cities, we see that in the cities play a very important role for energy transformation, which we actually experience in today's presentations. 50% of the global population, 55% of global population is in the cities, and 3/4 of the carbon emission is also caused by cities. In 1 billion cities, in 1,327 cities, 1 billion people live. And what does Turkey do in that picture? The Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality announced a climate change plan. Also, Kadıköy is a province announced this. Also in Urla, another province of Izmir, there is a movement, there is some action in Turkey, in Urla as well. So, what are the policies in cities for energy transformation? The net-offs and warranty purchase tariffs and renewable energy liabilities and portfolio standards and electric vehicles and renewable energy liabilities in transport are the regulatory policies. In financial, tax benefits and discounts and public purchase and investments and low interest rate loans, or there are also facilitating policies as well. And here we see that 799 cities are supporting the policies, and their breakdown is as follows: renewable energy 19%, renewable heating and cooling 18%, renewable transport is 41%, and the renewable electric is 45%. The reason that the renewable energy for buildings and heating and cooling is low is because the problems in technology, even though there are certain developments, make it more difficult to heat and cool the buildings with electrical energy. We need to take further steps to achieve this in the buildings. And we see that the world, as well as Turkey, needs to do this. And when we look at the things we can do for Turkey to have a more active role in the energy transformation of cities, we need to maximize the benefits of transformation, and we need to bring together national solutions with local scale solutions. 2030 and 2050 inclusive, comprehensive climate action plans need to be formed, and the role of the cities, the needs of the cities, and their activities must be specifically taken into account. And we need to increase the number of cities with renewable energy goals and programs, and we also need to increase the institutional capacity on a city level for energy management to have social, economic, and financial dimensions of the projects. We need to be able to plan, assess, and implement them. I won't take more of your time. I will now stop, but I can contribute in the discussion part. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much, Yael. That was a very detailed, very nice presentation. And for Turkish cities and for global cities you shared, I would like to now ask a couple of questions to our European participants who shared great information with us. Especially Freiburg is a very good example, very important example for Turkey and for the world for doing things first. I want to ask Francesca, this transformation in Freiburg, what are your suggestions or your advice to countries like Turkey who are just starting to do this? There are certain networks about energy efficiency. There are union of municipalities bringing together various municipalities, sharing their best practices with each other. Have you done something like that in Freiburg? And how did that come to this level? And I would like to ask her.
Yes, okay. I will answer shortly what I understood. The question was, City of Freiburg is part of different networks, city networks, because we think climate action on the local level is not a competition, it is a cooperation. So we learn from other cities, and if we see somewhere a good scheme, we just try to copy it. And so I think progress, the kind of political evolution, is taking place. So we are part of ICLE, local environmental initiatives, or NRGCT, so city networks, and we try to have a benchmark and exchange experiences. And for the, in general, in the city in Freiburg, we made the experience that administration should work out projects, but not alone, and keep the public debate alive. I think consensus sometimes is overrated. I think you have if the citizenship and also the stakeholders in the economy and citizen groups are very interested in this issue of climate action and sustainability, this brings an administration forward. So we cannot make it as a top-down process. There must be top-down regulations, but the important is you can do this on the local level, get in contact with the people, because they are the ones who are promoting the process. And it is a process. And so we have to try to join the forces.
Since I wonder the answer, I want to also ask this question to Bünyamin. You represent a city which is at a certain level in this topic. So in Denmark, there are best practices. And do you have a network to share this set of best practices? And do you have a network like that? Because I believe Turkey actually needs a network of that sort to share with other municipalities the experiences, lessons learned. If you can tell us what can be done in Turkey. As you have said, sharing information is very important. Many cities, many countries have a lot of experience in this field. Of course, we need to share these experiences for the common good of our world, and our experiences, especially in are also helping us. Some people, some institutions might not be willing to share their information, their data, but if we can share transparently our information, our knowledge and experiences with other parties and entities, then this can be shared. One thing that I can advise out of what we work since 2019, public government, especially local governments' decisions should be in their own discretion. They need to first take the steps in that field. First, we need to see what we can do within our own domain, in our own field of discretion, and then we get to ask for contributions or participation from the citizens. And something that is not talked about much is we talk about the end goals. They are very important. But there's a trend in the world. One of the most important works they can do is about infrastructure and to develop the electricity infrastructure. In Denmark, for example, all private vehicles, even if all of them were transformed in the electrical vehicles, it won't be feasible because we don't have the electricity infrastructures. Only 1.5% of all the vehicles in Denmark are electric devices. And even if this was 10 times more, say this increased tenfold, we would have a major problem in our country because we don't have the electricity infrastructure to support this, and we need to allocate a huge portion of our resources to these investments. So it will be very difficult for us to use sustainable energy unless we have the necessary infrastructure. Thank you so much, Benjamin. This was an important warning. This is also valid for Turkey as well. And the transformation to renewable energy, our municipalities are doing a lot to transform, but we need the necessary infrastructure with the smart networks and micro networks, which will easily facilitate the integration of the new vehicles to this electricity system. So what does this infrastructure need to supply this or support this? And after these two municipalities, I want to now pass the mic to Turkey. Ayşegül told us a lot of things, and she couldn't even finish. She couldn't even tell all of it. And they do a lot of things, serious work. But just like Yael said, the municipality is very active in certain fields, but with the energy efficiency and transformation of energy, having zero energy buildings, and in their future-bound works, I think energy efficiency is a stepchild for Turkish municipalities. It's on the back burner. So how did you develop your studies in energy efficiency? So you also come up with a roadmap, and you have other projects and plans. What are your plans and goals to make this more of a priority? The cooperation and collaboration in Europe between municipalities, sharing the best practices in Marmara Union of Municipalities and Turkish Union of Municipalities. Are you sharing all of these with each other? Can Antep be a leader on that front? Mr. Arif, you know that energy efficiency on the back burner, but with the president's announcement about energy efficiency, we will focus more on energy efficiency. What's our current situation in terms of energy efficiency? We see that 16 million Turkish lira worth of energy savings was realized. And apart from the water works and canalization, we can do this in our buildings, we thought. These are high numbers, but there are certain financial priorities for municipalities, and right now this energy efficiency priority is very important for us because it will have certain incentives from the central government in terms of for your second question. Our mayor, Ms. Shahin, is also the chairwoman of Union of Municipalities, and Gaziantep is in too many networks and is a sister city with many cities of the world. And with, of course, we can form a certain network with the municipalities we're already affiliated with. We would like to share our experiences. This would be an important initiative if we could bring together the current municipalities with international ones. I'd like to give the last word to Yael again, and both on a global scale and for Istanbul. I would like to ask about electric vehicles and the issue of storage. And they work on the infrastructure, which Bunyamin told us is very important to support the electric transformation in transitioning to renewable energy. Can you please tell us what you are doing in Istanbul? Thank you so much, Arif. We have a couple of different lines of work technically. In 2018, the Shura Energy Transformation Center started with a couple of discussions. The energy grid of Turkey. How well can it sustain energy transformation? How can we integrate this transformation to the existing energy grid of Turkey? And this was a very sensational study back then. 30,000 solar megawatts of solar and 30,000 megawatts of wind could easily be sustained, is what we found out. Back then, our levels were even lower, and now we just reached 10,000 megawatts. In solar, back then, we were almost at level 0, and right now we have 7,000 megawatts, roughly, most of which is not in the production grid, generation grid, but distribution grid. It's been to the distribution grid. And we had an encouraging study back then, and the industry actually moved forward real fast. Now we're working on how to better integrate this energy into the current system, and how much of the extra load can Turkey hold? We came to the end of our session. Thank you so much. That was very useful indeed, and I hope that it was useful for local governments and municipalities in Turkey and abroad as well. I would like to thank to all the participants from Turkey and abroad, as well as the organizers. I'd like to thank you for all the information you shared, and also I would like to thank to the Union of Marmara Union of Municipalities. Thank you.